So now that college softball is officially over, the big topic is going to be the transfer portal. So that's what we're going to talk about today. And I'm going to start off by saying I personally am not a fan. Too often, it's athletes are leaving for the wrong reasons. Like there's always going to be reasons to leave. You know, if you're in a bad situation where your mental health is suffering, where you are not being treated as a person or valued as a person, you know, there's always going to be situations that you should absolutely leave. But I think more and more athletes are leaving in search of NIL, or they're not getting enough playing time. And rather than facing adversity, they would rather just leave because they think the grass is going to be greener on the other side.
Adding on to that, I've talked about it before, but I'm also not for the hate that these athletes get either on the internet and social media, because again, we never know what someone is going through unless you're in it and you're that person. When people crap on players for leaving without knowing their situation, I'm like, again, if you're like unhappy at a job, you're getting treated like crap. Like in the real world, you're working a job and the work environment is bad. Maybe you have like a horrible boss that just like berates you. I don't know. You're going to quit. You're going to leave. In the real world, you would do that. So it's kind of the same thing with.
But that's not necessarily true, because a lot of people, like, you might have a job you hate, but you have to be able to make a living. And so a lot of times you have to put up with it until you find another job because you need that income.
Yeah. But it's also, I think, and it, you know, it's kind of just like an analogy, but in college athletics, I mean, you can't really find a new place until you enter the portal, like legally.
Oh, yeah. I wasn't saying it's apples to apples.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, because in the real world, yeah, it's like you have a bad day and you're like, I quit. Obviously, it's not the same thing, but you kind of think on it and figure out a plan. And I think the same goes for athletics. If you're, again, not in a good place mentally and you're just like, you just hate your life having to go to the field every day, you know, help yourself get out of the situation if that's what you want to do, obviously. But I feel like that is what some athletes do, because I think this year a lot of things came out about some college coaches, like on social media, whatever, about how they treat their players. And I was just like shocked. I'm like, I don't even know the word to describe. I'm like, it just makes me so much more thankful that I was at OU.
It's 2025. Like, there is zero excuses for players to be treated like that now. We know that that's not the most beneficial way of coaching your athletes. That's not going to get you the most wins or have the best season, right? Like, there's just grow up. Like, it's not the 70s anymore. Get with the time. And it like, and those are the situations where I do think that the transfer portal is absolutely necessary, but how often is that actually the case? You know what I mean? But, and again, we're never going to know, but with NIL, it makes it a lot more suspicious as to why they're leaving. Maybe not suspicious, but questionable as to why they're leaving. But also, like, you know, you hear about players like, oh, well, I'm the number 2 pitcher and I want to be the number 1 pitcher. Like, then work harder. Like, well, my teammate was mean to me. I'm like, welcome to real life. You're going to work with people you don't like. And you got to figure out how to do that, because you can't just quit your job every time you don't like somebody you work with.
And I think the conversation with NIL also, like, I don't want it to sound like anytime that there's NIL involved, or now that it is more involved in the portal, that just because someone wants to transfer, it's for money. Like, we never, like, I want to emphasize that we don't know what is going on with in these people's lives and what they have to deal with. And a lot of times that's a more vulnerable personal thing that they might not even share. So it's none of our business. It's none of your business. It's no one's business other than theirs. But again, with NIL, again, like, I don't want to dismiss people that are actually going through shit that need to get out of that situation. But I also think, which we did a YouTube video on what to ask coaches, right? We did. I think a lot of it too is, and again, I don't know what people look at when they're committing to colleges and when they go on visits, but I sure as hell hope it's not all the flashy stuff that they show you. Because knowing what questions to ask, figuring out what the culture is there by looking at body language, like, again, we talked about this in a video, but when I was going on visits in 7th and 8th grade, even I wasn't asking those questions, but I know my parents were, but also, like, I thought about my decision. Like, I wasn't one of the kids that got an offer and accepted it. I waited like 9-10 months before I called. And even then, I was like still a freshman in high school, still really young, but I waited a long time before calling Coach Gasso and saying, like, I want to come here. And you have to think logically.
Like every other week.
Oh, I know.
Do that. We talked about it a lot.
Yeah, and it's like I had like a whiteboard in my house of like my top 3 schools and the pros and cons and how much I cared about each of those pros and cons. And like I thought about it very, very logically for like a middle schooler, honestly. And also at that time, you didn't have anything flashy. They were showing us like their locker room, Marita. No, I mean like I love Marita. I feel like honestly, every team should go and like be required to practice there just to like get humbled. But it's like, the locker room wasn't the greatest. And I didn't care about any of that. When I'm going on visits, I don't care about the big flashy things. I never did. Yeah, going to those I think about like Oregon's workout facilities when I went there. I was like, right? But that was never on my list of pros and cons. It was never, they have a pretty weight room. So I hope it's not falling for I also want to say like the cosmetics of the school and like what, all of those things you need to figure out if that school is the right fit for you. And if you like the coaches as people, if they treat you as a person, and again, I'm not shaming anybody that is going through the portal. I'm just saying that before you get there, you need to know. And again, some can be deceiving. I like take this with a grain of salt, but it's like, you need to do your best to figure out like the ins and outs of that program before you even commit to it. And like, that's something that I felt like I always kind of knew it was Oklahoma. Like when I went, after I got my offer, it was raining and I was like dancing and like jumping in puddles. Like, that kind of like probably should have been a tell. But also I'm like, if I'm dancing and jumping in puddles, maybe I shouldn't be making a decision about what college I want to go to. Honestly, I'd probably still do that. So
Thankfully, the whole early recruiting thing got fixed because
thank God.
Oh my God.
But it's also like now you're more grown up and you can think you need to think critically and logically and obviously trust your gut, but like your gut isn't the one that's saying, this place has more money for you. Your gut isn't saying that. That's like your mind. Because like a school can be great, the coaches can be great, but it's just not the right fit for you. Like I even think about, which I'm getting kind of off topic, but I think it's still useful. Like when I went to Arizona, Coach Condrea was the coach. He is like very stand-up guy and actually treated me with a lot of respect. And some coaches just, they treat you like almost like an object when you're there. Like they're just trying to impress you. Like he was very laid back and was like, you know what? Like if this is what's on the table for you, like scholarship wise, but he was like, we would love to have you, but if this isn't the right fit for you, that's okay too. He's like, I'm not going to try to pitch it to you in a way to make you come here and to force you to come here. And he's like, if this is the right fit for you, then you have a spot here. And if not, like I'll support you and would love, watching you in your college career, all of that. And I'm like, that's how it should be. That like, I understand schools want to sell their program and all this stuff, but at no point should it be like convincing you to go there in a way that's like, they're treating you like just like an athlete rather than a person. Like if you're not being treated like a person, you're only being treated as a throwing arm, a bat, how strong you are, like get out. No. So, and again, you pick those things up on visits, phone calls.
But let's say, so like back to the transfer portal, obviously you have to do your homework, right? You got to pick the right program for you. Mm-hmm. But let's say you pick the right program. So like in your case, right? I think definitely after your freshman year, I was hearing rumors about how you were going to transfer because you weren't the number one and this and that. And it's like that happens a lot. And it's like, is that really what's important to you? Or is it important to be a part of a program and to have a coach and a culture that helps you develop into a strong woman for the real world? And, and athletes go through things. And even at the best program, you're going to go through hard times and you're going to have, disagreements with your coaches and disagreements with your teammates and this sort of. Those aren't reasons to leave, right? Disagreements, hardships are not reasons to leave. So what if it's hard? You're a college athlete. You can do hard things. And that's going to prepare you for life. And the grass is not always greener on the other side. It's not always going to be easier or better at a different program. And so especially
green where you water it.
And this is probably a lot having to do with my age because transfers were so rare back then. It was, when you committed to a program, you committed for 4 years and you committed through thick and thin. And that's just, and you built pride that way. You built pride in the program and I almost quit. I kind of did quit in the middle of my junior season. A newspaper reported me, had my first loss of the season. It was like in March or something. And they asked me, do you wish you could be able to hit? I think we played like Arizona State or something and they shut us out. And I was like, yeah, I would love to hit, but I'm never going to make it into this lineup. Our hitters are way too good. Mm-hmm. And of course they only put in, yes, I would like to hit. And so my team lost their shit and blamed me. That they did not print the entire quote. Anyway, so there was a bunch of things that
And there's no like video and stuff too. Like today, it's like all that's on the video. You said in the newspaper.
What can I say?
Yeah.
Anyway, and so it just kind of continued. And, you know, people like anytime anything would happen, or like every bus ride, I would hear things being said and this and that. And it was just like, I was miserable. I didn't want to be there. There were a couple other things happening behind the scenes that also put me in a really bad place. And then finally, I just got to a point, I was like, I need something to change. And so I called my catcher and I was like, look, like I suck. My rise ball is flat. I'm giving up way too many home runs. Like, can we just change pitch calling or like anything? Like, I just need to do something different to try and get out of the slump. And she went to my pitching coach, who is like a grandpa, right? Like he told his Red Book jokes during our bullpens, talked about his dogs, like the nicest possible guy you could ever imagine. And I show up to practice that day and he rips me a new one for blaming my catcher for all the home runs that I gave up. And I like walked out, and Danny like ran after me and convinced me to stay. And I'm glad I did. And I saw a sports psychologist after that, and I like worked on my things, and I was fine. But I'm so happy that I stayed. If I hadn't stayed, I would be nowhere near the situation I've been now. I wouldn't be coaching. I wouldn't have played in Europe. I wouldn't have made all these amazing friends since college. Sticking through hard times, no matter how hard, it pays off. Like resiliency is not appreciated anymore. Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah. I feel like there's a huge,
you don't see it very often, but like, yeah, like there's just no resiliency or loyalty to the program. It's like, okay, well, I'm unhappy, I'm just going to leave. And like, obviously there's a very big difference between being unhappy and being in a bad situation where you're not treated well as a person or a human. Sometimes you just like, you got to stick things out.
Kind of like what you were saying. It's a huge, I think, like generational thing. You think of past generations.
Definitely a generational.
Like their mindset is like, put your head down and work. It doesn't matter what you think. It doesn't matter what you feel. Today's generation is more so like, I'm going to do what I want. I think, well, I do still think that there is program loyalty. Like I'm speaking for myself, like never once did I ever think about transferring.
Of course.
The first time I heard that, I was like, I'm like, I know my coaches don't think, I'm like, I don't want to leave. Like, what, why are people saying, like, people are talking about me wanting to leave. I'm like, because I'm very much like, I committed to the program. Like, anything if I'm playing, it's because I'm earning it. If it's not, it's because I need to work harder. Like, it's not, I never took that personally. And again, some people's experiences are different, but I committed to the program, to the culture, to the girls, to the coaches, to the university. Like, and again, because that was very like strategic. I didn't just like on a whim. And again, I'm not trying to blame other people or put anyone, whatever. But like,
this is all
me personally, it was never on a whim. It was just like, I thought about it and I'm like, this is where I want to go here. And what, because I wasn't the ace pitcher, that just means I leave people. I'm like, I must be putting out the wrong message if people think that I'm unhappy here. Like, what are we talking about? I don't know.
Yeah, I was shocked when I heard that rumor about you. I was like, what?
Yeah, my mom clocked it, but I was like, what the heck?
Yeah, because I never once, I was like, really? Like, she loves
I still get it now. People still comment on my things like, so happy she's a Sooner. She could have left and been an ace somewhere else, but decided to stay loyal to the program. I'm like, am I still giving off the vibes that like I would just leave if I'm not playing? Like, what are we talking about? And it's not like I never played either. Like, I was pitching. Yep. I contributed. I don't need to be this number one whatever. Like, I knew my role. I accepted it. I worked towards that. Like, however I could contribute, I contributed the best that I could. I'm very team focused. I don't care about any of those individual. Like, as long as we end up
whole rabbit hole about team versus individual and like the whole recruiting thing, and you're like the whole generation is not about team success anymore. It is about individual success because of recruiting and this and that.
And I know people talk about how difficult it is, especially I've seen it a lot for basketball, but how difficult it is. I think basketball maybe is because people are going to the draft and whatever, but how difficult it is to build a strong team when you have people coming in, leaving. I know OU basketball was getting that kind of a lot where it's like, it's hard to create good chemistry and a good culture when like, okay, the first year, like you're working on it, you're building it, you put that first like brick down and then people leave and then you got new people in, you're trying to teach them this. And then like, it's a constant in and out thing. And that is hard. Kind of transitioning into obviously NIL is a huge new factor. I mean, it's still new. It came out, that started happening my freshman year, 2020, I think. And now it's already kind of getting restrictions on it. We're going to be talking about rev share, NIL, all that stuff in the coming weeks. But, and we kind of touched on it too, like NIL with transfer portal, now that it's very much a thing and, people can be transferring for money, I feel like it can be damaging because you're hurting programs that want to build this culture and you're sticking out for 4 years and you're invested in the program.
With the transfer portal, because I was just doing some research on this, and depending on on the numbers you're looking at, these girls, these athletes are thinking, oh, if I go on the portal, I'm going to find something better. Anywhere from 35 to 50% of those athletes don't find a new place, don't find a new program to go to. And they just get lost in the portal and then never play again. I couldn't find any information on what happens with them, but that's a huge number. That is a huge number. And so unless you're one of those athletes who is really in that horrible situation where you would rather not play than to stay in that program, that's the right decision. But if you're just looking for, the grass is greener, or I want more pitching time or whatever, like that is a huge risk because 35 to 50% is a very, very large chance that you will not find a new program. I don't even know if that gets talked about very much.
No, I never heard about that. I'm kind of unfamiliar with like the whole process of the transfer portal and how that all works. And I didn't know that. Ultimately, obviously, it is up to the player. And NIL has kind of changed some things. I think just our generation and just realizing I think people, again, kind of like if I'm unhappy, I need to leave. But it's like, I just think it's up to the person at the end of the day. And college athletics is always changing. And I think this is just one of the next changes along its route. I don't think they're going to get rid of the portal. I don't think they're going to, do any of that. They are going to be putting limits on NIL with like rev share, which again, we'll kind of get into in another video. But ultimately, it's like, you just got to do what's best for you, I think. And
for sure,
mental health should always be, I think, prioritized. And again, if you're being treated like dog shit, or you have like, I've seen some horrible things about some college coaches where it's just like, they're just narcissistic a-holes. I wouldn't want to push through that either. But I also knew that the program I was coming into wasn't going to be anything like that because of the feelings I felt, the visit, and again, all the things we talked about before. So do your research as best as you can, please.
But also realize that when you commit, like you are committing intentionally to being at that program for 4 years. And
because I feel like coaches have to be like, how do I keep you now? That was never talked about before. Like, how do I keep this person? Like, do I need to pay them more? I need to do this. I need to whatever. It's like that. I don't think coaches ever had to think. Maybe they did. I don't know. I'm not a coach, but I don't think they ever had to think about like, what do I need to do? What do I need to move around to keep this player here and not go somewhere where they can get X, Y, Z? Yeah. Like it's about, I just feel like we've lost.
Like, I wish. Yeah. And that's what I want to go back to seeing again is I don't think we should get rid of the portal. I would love to see athletes really commit to programs for their whole career because and you know this because you did it too, but like the intense school pride that you have for playing for a university for 4 years, it never goes away. And it doesn't. And after playing, and I
said, sooner born, sooner bred. When I die, I'll be sooner dead.
But like playing on pro teams, and I loved my pro teams, and I was so bought into to each team that I was on. I don't have anywhere near the pride that I had for college. And I would venture to say that that's the same for pretty much any pro athlete who also played in college because it's pro sports is just
blood, sweat, and tears went into that program.
Yeah. And you're playing for something bigger than yourself. And yes, like when you're playing for a pro team, it's, you're playing for the team and that sort of thing, but it's just a team. It's not a school. It's not like, especially, OU too, but like Cal, we had a very unique culture at Cal. And, it was every part of that is what I was playing for. And oh my God, I look back at it, even with all the things that I went through, I was like, that was the best 4 years of my life. And I'm so happy that I didn't leave.
But I also hope that this is also a calling out coaches that do treat their players badly.
Oh yeah, we're going to keep preaching that.
2025, be better.
We're going to keep.
If you don't know how to treat an athlete like a person before an athlete, you shouldn't be in college athletics at all. Like, what are you in it for? Because you need to care about the people that are coming. So again, it's not all on the players. Like, you coaches need to be held to a higher standard of actually treating your players like human beings.
Next time we'll get more into NIL and rev share and you know, it'll come back to the transfer portal, but it'll be more of a focus on those next time.
And if we miss anything or if you have any, oh my God, now if when you see YouTubers, comment down below.
Actually, but I would love to hear other people's comments.
No, I'm
like,
like,
this is such a big topic. I'm looking forward to the comments and questions because this is such a big topic and so many different aspects of it.
Yeah, that's why I'm like, I feel cringy. Like,
no,
let us know your thoughts in the comments, but like, actually, let us know your thoughts because everyone's perspective is different. Everyone, obviously. Yeah. So I think it'd be fun to hear. Obviously, be respectful. We were respectful, so you be respectful too, right? So goes both ways.
Except for the coaches who don't treat their athletes like people.
Yeah, no respect for you guys. Everyone else, yeah, be nice. Bye. Bye.